I write mostly for children and young adults, although I also have stories for adults. Mostly I've written short stories, and there are two anthologies that have my stories. One is the Night Monkeys, the Palanca winning stories. So that's a children's story, and the other is the Baguettes Anthology.
I like that. I like the title.
Oh, well, maybe your library should get them.
I thought the Palanca Awardee was virtual.
Oh yes, that was one of my that was my first Palanca Awardee. That was 2002. Yeah. That one was science fiction, futuristic fiction.
The virtual. How about each in a different fashion?
Yeah, that's also my first book, anthology. Well, I suppose in my educational background, actually what helped mostly was that I come from a family that likes books. So my mom's an English professor in UP, yeah. So they encouraged us to read and bought us a lot of books. And, well, we always had a lot of books around. Well, I really come from a reading family. So my Lolo's books, my dad's books, my older brother's books. I read all of them. And of course, they got me books for myself too. And so that side of my education was what encouraged me mostly. In college, in high school, well, I joined clubs like the Journalists Club newsletter. So
and Holy Spirit, right?
Yeah. So I wrote there. I was a literary editor in high school.
Wow.
And then in college, well, my course was art studies, but you learn all sorts of interesting things about places and people. We got to go on a lot of field trips, and I actually used the places and field trips in several stories. Like there's a story about the caves in Sagada that I wrote. That's one of my favorites, and it won the third place in the graphic awards. Well, I don't have a lot of Palanca awards. I won in 2 years. In 2002, I won first place for Virtual Center in futuristic fiction. So that's like science fiction. They don't have that anymore, by the way. And the other one was The Slipper. That's second place children's story. And then in 2006, I also won second place for a children's story. That's the one in the Night Monkeys. It's called The Dancers.
Yeah, I saw that. So, question. This is not part of the list, but I'm just out of my own curiosity. Who supports or who makes the Palanca, or where does the Palanca award comes from? Like, who supports it?
The Palanca family. It's the Palanca family. So it's one of the wealthy
There's a family named Palanca?
Yes.
Really?
You see them at the awards. They take up several tables. Every member of the family, down to the smallest, goes there.
Also, even the award.
So they have a foundation because they're a wealthy family, and they have this foundation to encourage literary excellence.
So during retreats, when you say can you give me a Palanca, or the word parents give me a Palanca, that word
no,
comes
I think
from...
that comes from somewhere else. I think that probably comes from palanga. That's just old term meaning, like deer.
Oh,
haven't you heard of that? Palanga?
Okay, di pala sila related. Okay, so
they are probably related in the sense that palanca is probably derived from the term palanga. But that's all.
Good. So it's Latin or what?
No, it's Filipino.
It's Filipino?
Yeah,
Oh.
for deer. You'll see it in old books, I think. Or
So,
it used to be slang, palanga.
Palanca.
In society pages they say, I hike palangas.
Oh,
Corny stuff
okay.
like that.
Now I'm enlightened. Okay, alam ko na bakit Palanca.
Well,
So,
you should probably ask your Filipino teachers for confirmation.
Yes.
Well, I think that harks back to my childhood because I read a lot, I told you. And I loved reading, but at the same time, I also felt that, all these things that I was reading didn't completely reflect my experiences as a Filipino. Well, of course, most of them were American or British books, and the families were very different. The behavior of the children, like, for instance, in Beverly Cleary's books, so she wrote maybe in 1960s, it's American. Like, kids would take the bus downtown by themselves at 9 years old. Of course, they don't do that anymore in America either. But the point was, things like that didn't seem in line with my own experiences. So I felt that need to find books that would reflect experiences. So really, I'm just writing what I wish I had to read, was able to read when I was young.
Mr. Falgui mentioned that one of the reasons why you post your works online was that it attracts more attention outside the country. So, just to ask you for that, have you
Why
encountered
post them?
anything?
Difficulty in what? Sorry.
Like being a writer in the Philippines, or in terms of the culture here.
Oh yeah, it's very hard to be a writer here. For one thing, you can't earn a living as a writer here. That's one. The other is it's hard to get published because there are only a few publishers and they don't really make that much money from publishing literary works. So that's the main problem.
Still comes to economics.
Yeah, I guess. There are a lot of people who write, but it's not accurately, I don't think it's accurately represented by, well, the names that most people know. Most of the names people know are the older writers, right? Yeah. Those are the ones in textbooks, the ones who are national artists. Well, yeah, or even not as old as that. Gregorio Brillantes is still around. Miko Kid. But they don't, there are a lot of young writers. But of course, it's hard for them to get, as I said, it's hard to get published. Although now people often publish online, so I think that will help eventually. As I said, so I think I'm not the only one. I'm pretty sure there are others who would also like to see themselves represented in literature. So, and I also like to write stories that include a lot of facts about culture and art. I'm a kind of trivia buff, Philippine history, Philippine culture trivia buff. Also, because, as I said, I've been on a lot of field trips and places in the Philippines. It's like these things were so new and amazing to me. It's like, I mean, they're part of our culture, but so few people seem to know about them outside of the places where these are done. So I feel that it's all, by using these in stories, it's also a way of spreading knowledge about our own culture. Well, I think one thing is that I'm very comfortable in being funny. Of course, some people, they tend to take your work lightly if there's humor. But I feel that that shouldn't be the case. So regardless of that opinion, I do try to be light and positive because the usual view of literary writers that, it has to be very serious and solemn and deep. But I think there's also room for laughter. After all, some of the great American writers, British writers like Mark Twain, Jane Austen, they were funny. And nobody puts them down because of that. Even Raissa was funny at times, but of course people focus on the social aspect, so nobody gives that much attention. Well, first, of course, you have to read a lot and read a wide variety of literature. And I think that should also be open-minded to different kinds of literature. For instance, when I was in creative writing. No, just this comparative literature class, that's sort of literary criticism of Philippine lit. Well, one of the students was putting down this Carlos Bulosan book because it wasn't as serious and in-depth as America in the Heart. I forget the title. It's just a thin book published posthumously. It was kind of an adventure story which included aspects of Philippine culture. It was funny too. But he was saying, oh, how could Carlos Bulosan have written that? It was like... But, I was thinking there are all sorts of ways. And you shouldn't close your mind to different ways because that's how literature grows and develops. And wouldn't you rather be someone who contributed something new rather than someone who's just, got respect by copying the older people? Those who want to write, well, there are a lot of writers groups. So it helps to join them. It's encouraging because, as I said, it's very hard to be a writer in the Philippines. So they can, at the very least, encourage you, and at the very most, help you get published. Also, with regards to creative writing courses, well, I think they help especially to build your discipline, and, well, so that you get different opinions about your work.